Can you believe we started Interview Boss in 2021?
Not really. It's insane. That's a lot of episodes and a lot of hours of talking.
Oh my gosh, it is. And if you're scrolling through all of our episodes, you might scroll straight past something that you really, really needed.
Yes, we're always getting messages from people asking us to do an episode on something, and I'm like, we already have.
So we've put together playlists to help you find the episodes that are exactly what you need, suited to your situation.
They're all categorized. If you're applying for jobs, we have episodes about resumes, cover letters, job ads. If you've been offered your dream job, we have episodes on resigning, exit interviews, and how to impress at your new company.
And we even have a very special playlist that's very popular for if you have an interview coming up immediately and you need just our most recommended hard-hitting episodes between now and then.
For all our last-minute listeners. It's all there for you. You can browse by category and check out all the playlists at interviewboss.com.au/podcast.
It is so important for people to really understand that who you are is not the same as what you do.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Interview Boss. My name's Emma. I'm a third-year journalism student who's teamed up with my sister to give you advice, inspiration, and support when you're looking for a new job. Sarah is a HR and recruitment professional, and together we're excited to give you guys all the tips, tricks, and behind-the-scenes knowledge to help you in your career.
Hey guys, if you listened to our episode last week, you'll know we hit 10,000 listens and we announced an awesome giveaway on our Instagram. Well, thank you all so much for entering. We had so many comments and so many new followers. We're reaching even more people. But the lucky winner is taking away a $100 voucher to spend on a new outfit, either for their interview or for their new job, and an hour career chat with me. And our winner is D. Jeremiah. So if that's your Instagram handle, keep an eye out in your DMs. We're going to be reaching out to you to arrange that voucher and that career chat. Now let's get back on with the episode. This week, we're talking about job rejection, losing a job, and the toll it can take on your mental health during a job search. We've roped in an expert to talk us through overcoming the emotional challenges of job searching. So joining us today is Dr Lillian Nejad, who is a clinical psychologist and skills for life coach. Lillian, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on your podcast.
So to start things off, would you be able to please give us a brief rundown of the kind of work you do?
Absolutely. I've been a clinical psychologist for over 20 years, and I've worked in multiple settings over that time. So I started out in community-based organizations, like community health organizations, and also public mental health, working on, the inpatient psychiatric ward and crisis assessment teams, and working with people with early psychosis and all kinds of things. And I loved it, so it was really great. And then I decided that I wanted to try what it was like to work in a university setting. So I was a lecturer for a few years, and I supervised clinical psychology students in the doctoral program, and which was fantastic as well. But I actually really missed doing the direct work with clients. And so I went back to public mental health for several years, and then I decided I was going to go out on my own, and I've been doing a private practice for about 6 years. And in the last year, I decided I was going to just dip my toes into the business world a little bit, and so I started my business called Skills for Life, which is basically just providing what I would normally provide, in terms of skills and strategies in a session with a client, but give everyone kind of access to those skills and strategies in online course environment, so that people can just access it whenever in the privacy of their own home in a really efficient, kind of effective way.
Yeah, and maybe before they're at the point of being, in crisis mode as well.
Absolutely. So it's definitely not a substitute for therapy in any way. It really is about giving people the skills they need, to prevent being in a worse situation, and to give you like early intervention so that you don't make things worse over time by not doing anything.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, awesome. So let's start with if someone has lost a job. Many people can find that losing a job can be hugely challenging emotionally. What do you think it is that makes it so hard?
losing a job is so hard. I mean, there's just no question about it. But it's hard for so many reasons. I mean, what you do for a lot of people is wrapped up in their identity and their sense of self and their self-esteem. I know that from listening to some of your shows that might be true for you, and it's definitely true for me. Yeah. When you're a high achiever, or when achievement is, close to the top of your kind of values list or priorities, losing your work or your job can feel like a major blow to who you are as a person, and you can feel lost.
Because we kind of say like, I am a whatever, insert your job, and you're defining yourself by what it is that you do for work. And so if you've lost that, then I am a what?
Exactly. And you bring up such a great point, Sarah, because I think it is so important for people to really understand that who you are is not the same as what you do.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's a really interesting one, because I think that a lot of us are just tied to this, we need to be productive and achieve, and that is who we are. But actually, no, it's not. It's what we've prioritized. It's what we value potentially, but it's not who we are as people.
Yeah, I think it's a huge part of society as well, like the grind, hustle culture of like working 5 days a week. Like it really, ends up shaping how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, it can. And look, there are lots of other reasons why losing your job would be hard. I mean, it can be the main source of income for your family, for instance, and then you're worried about, putting food on the table potentially, or you just feel like you failed your family in some way. Even though they might not feel that way about you. You might feel that way about yourself if you're the main source of income. And you might also worry about how others see you if you're out of work and feel judged by others potentially. It might just be, again, what you're thinking in your own head rather than what's actually happening, but it's something that people often worry about. And I think people really worry about the future and whether they're going to be able to find another job and how long that's going to take, and is it going to be as good in terms of like status or pay, and how are they going to manage that. So there's all sorts of reasons why it's emotionally difficult when you lose your position.
And do you think that how you lost your role impacts on the way that people can react?
Yeah, I think that absolutely makes a difference. I mean, there's so many different ways we can lose our role. So there's getting fired, there's resigning, there is being asked to resign, there is becoming redundant, there's quitting, or it might be that a business has gone under and the job just doesn't exist anymore. And I think even within those categories, there's going to be differences in how people react, because it's about how they've interpreted that situation and what their previous experiences have been, and how that kind of sets the tone for how they might react and respond to this situation. And so you can get a whole range of different reactions that, that might be disappointment, which sounds like a very reasonable reaction to losing your job. Look, they're probably all fairly reasonable reactions, feeling upset, disappointed, frustrated, angry. Depending on the circumstances, all of those emotions might be reasonable. It's just about, what function are they serving? And sometimes we just need to feel a certain way about something, and it's completely valid to do that. But also to notice when your emotions are becoming dysfunctional and being able to do something about that if that's occurring.
Yeah, on that note, actually, I've talked to a lot of candidates in the past who, are going through an interview process, and they're kind of projecting a lot of negative emotions about their previous role or the previous company, or how they were treated on the way out. What are some of the things that we can do to process those emotions so that they maybe don't hold you back?
Yeah, look, I think, and you're the experts, interview bosses, but I think in interviews, like, the most important thing is to be able to express who you are and what you're capable of effectively.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Yeah.
So look, you have to ask yourself, is talking about how you feel about what happened in your last job going to help you in that process or hinder you? And that's not to say that it could sometimes be helpful to talk about your feelings in an interview. But, like if, for instance, like you want to express how you feel in a way that showcases your values, or if it highlights how you overcame a difficulty, or if it emphasizes like what you've learned in an experience and what you can bring to a new role. In those ways, expressing your feelings can be great. But if you're feeling very upset and angry with your previous workplace and you bring that energy into an interview, it's something that people can really pick up, and it's definitely not going to be helpful.
And that might not be the best reflection of who you actually are as a person. But all they're seeing is this kind of angry, disgruntled person who they're going, oh, do I want to work with someone who's bringing that energy in?
Yeah, that's right. So I think it's really important if you're really struggling to contain your emotions. And like I said, it can be really helpful just to validate that for yourself. Like, it doesn't mean that your emotions are invalid. It just means that expressing them in that, at that time in an interview isn't going to be the most effective thing for you. So when is it more effective to express those emotions? Like when's a better time? With who is a better time? Like put things in place so that you're able to express yourself and validate your feelings with others in more appropriate places in your life. So that might be your friends, it might be your family, it might be other former colleagues who know exactly what you're talking about, right? I certainly have done that with places
definitely.
You don't have to explain why. Everyone knows
they get it.
why. Yeah, they get it. So you can vent that way rather, and try also maybe to, before you go into an interview, put some strategies in place to calm yourself down and to remind yourself, like, what are you there for? You're there to express yourself effectively so they know who you are and they know what you can do. And that's it. Keep that front of mind when you go in.
You mentioned before some of the very normal emotions that come up with people when they're getting rejected from jobs or have lost their jobs. And while these feelings are totally normal, what are some unhelpful ways that people can sometimes respond to these tricky situations of having lost a job or...
Look, I think the most unhelpful way, or maybe the most common way that people respond to the difficulties of losing a job or trying to find a job is avoidance behaviors.
Classic.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways avoidance can be expressed. We might tell ourselves we don't feel like it. We'll procrastinate.
This is all familiar for me.
Yeah.
I'm a chronic
Emma's going through this right now.
I get overwhelmed and then avoid everything.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, and the reason why we use avoidance is because it works. It distracts us from, the task at hand, and it relieves our anxiety. Usually anxiety is what's at the root of avoidance behavior. So, and it gives us a break from feeling anxiety. And that's why it can become a pattern of behavior, because it makes us feel okay in the moment. So in the long term, it probably doesn't make us feel okay because we've left all of this stuff that we should have been doing, and it piles up and you get more and more stressed over time. But in that moment of like, I'm going to watch the show instead, or when I was doing my PhD, I was just playing like Minesweeper for 3 hours and be like, oh my God, 3 hours just went by. But so I think that's probably the most problematic behavior that can happen, because what I see with my clients sometimes who are looking for work too, it's like they tell me week after week that they're doing their resume, and then it's like, I didn't do anything about it again this week. And I didn't do anything about it again this week, and or they're not exploring what's out there.
On that note, I have some friends who have been going through job hunting, and it's been really tough. Like, as we know, people have to apply for sometimes 20, 30 jobs before hearing back. And I have a lot of friends who have been saying, like, I couldn't bring myself to apply for another role because I just couldn't handle the thought of rejection again. Like, they feel like, they've just been through it too much. They don't even want to apply. How can you sort of rebuild your self-esteem, I guess, after being knocked back so many times?
Well, you know what? I guess a lot of that depends on how you're interpreting rejection. I totally get how it can be very disheartening, and because, so you might apply for 20 jobs or however many, and you might not receive even an email back to say that they've, no, even if, it's just left there, all that effort that you put in doesn't mean anything. So I think part of it, in terms of being able to be resilient through that process, the most important factor is just to have support. And there are so many ways to get that. So there are resources within your own kind of social and family network, where you can get support. But there's also resources in the community. There's resources online, like your podcast, for instance, or LinkedIn, or, whatever it might be, that a career counselor or a recruitment agency, or, what's going to make the process easier for you. Often it is a source of support outside of you, that's helping you, prompting you, motivating you, encouraging you. I think part of it also is, and this is a hard one, is just not to take it personally, the rejection.
Yeah.
I know that it does feel personal. But like you said, at this time where a lot of people are looking for work, and especially in particular industries where people might be receiving who knows how many applications, it's probably not personal. It possibly is just practical. It's possibly that they didn't even get to read your application because they had to cut it off at some point because they don't have the manpower to go through everything.
Yeah.
So there's lots of reasons why you haven't been successful at getting the job, and it's not about you as a person. Again, it is that idea of it's not about you as a person. And whether someone wants you for that position or not, or whether they decide to interview, or whether they've even emailed you back to say yes or no, that doesn't mean anything about you.
That is like truth bomb. That doesn't mean anything about you. Yeah. And I think from the other side, you're exactly right in saying, it can come down to a practicality thing. When you're looking at a resume for, 10 seconds, doing a quick scan, you're not thinking, is this person worthy? What do I think about them?
Are they lovely? Are they
kind? I think they're useless?
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about any of their other kind of personal qualities either. It's just
objective. Do they have this certain skill or something? Yeah.
Or it's a numbers game, like you said.
Yes.
It's that I can't go through 300 resumes because I've got 10 other roles that I need to look at. And unfortunately, at a certain point, you can search to try and see, okay, I want to see all the most relevant ones, and someone might just get missed. And that's the reality of the job application world, unfortunately, in some industries that are really candidate heavy.
And you know what? There is it's also really helpful to objectively assess your applications too, right? If you've applied that many times and you think I was the perfect candidate for this job and I don't understand, then have somebody review your stuff. Right? There are people out there that do that. There are people out there that will rejig your resume for you. You can find, and you can do that for, low cost as well. I'm sure there's lots of high cost places you can do that as well.
Yeah.
But I know that you can go to, a whole range of websites where people are freelancing and they will do it for you for a reasonable price. And you can try different ways of applying and test out, well, maybe this method might work better than that method. And so I think support's one thing, but also maybe keep building your skills, but not do that in a judgmental way. Not like I'm terrible and I need to, be better and build my skills. It's like, no, you're just this. The rejection is it's an opportunity for learning, especially if they, have the courtesy to get back to you and tell you why, or, and, if you actually go through an interview process and you don't get the job, I don't know. I don't know what your advice is, but I always think it's really helpful to ask.
Definitely.
The people, like, what was it? And, what was I missing, or what could I have done better, or how, because it's such important information, why people make the decisions that they do. And if you can do that without judging yourself or judging them, then you're going to be able to really learn even more and really grow from that experience and take that into the next time that you apply for something.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully that experience, that feedback is really practical as well. Because it can sometimes be that you didn't interview that well, and you did have the experience, but they didn't really have that come across, and you can work on those skills. Yeah. Or it might be that you interviewed really well, but you haven't got the experience. And I think that's probably a little bit easier to take sometimes, because at least you communicated yourself properly, but you didn't tick one box or something like that, which you can then go out and work out how to get that experience for next time.
Well, I think that for both of them you can work on it. I just think that sometimes when the feedback is like about your own personal skills, let's say in the interview process, we are more sensitive to that.
Yeah.
Right? It makes us
feels
feel
a bit
bad
more
about
offensive.
ourselves, right? Rather than just looking at it as actually it's just a skills deficit, just like anything else.
Yeah.
What are the things that I can improve about? We're not perfect people,
Yeah.
Everybody's got a skills deficit somewhere, like in their lives, whether they tell you or they don't.
For sure.
So you're lucky that they've told you, because now and you won't go into another situation with the same problem and get rejected again and not know why. They've told you, they've given you honest, practical feedback. Take that and then do something to improve it. There's no shame in that at all.
I think as well, though, you don't always get closure. I was talking to a friend of mine who did reach out after an interview and just said, hey, this was my dream job. Like, I'd really love to know what I could do differently next time, and hasn't heard back still to this day, and has been keeping an eye out to see if anyone on LinkedIn changes their job title to that job, and who got it. And
just to figure it out.
What do they have that I don't have? Yeah. And I think, there's an element of sometimes you're not going to get closure.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've got to work out how you can process that without getting feedback, or without knowing what it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. That sometimes we just have to accept the reality that we're in. I mean, always, that's the best thing. Just to accept the reality as it is. Because then you can do something about it. And doing something about it might not be to press on and try to get the answers that you want. It might just be to realize you're not going to get the answers from that person. And potentially you can talk it through with other people, or maybe the next person that you come in contact with can give you the feedback that you're wanting. And then just take care of yourself and how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. Great little segue there, actually. What are some practical ways that you can practice self-care in a job search? Maybe it's been dragging on. Either you're in a job or and you're trying to do this kind of outside of work, or you're not, and you've got long stretches of days where you're trying to keep yourself motivated to go through the process.
I think that answer is going to be different for everyone. There's a whole range of skills and strategies that you can do. And what I try to help my clients with is to introduce them to the range of strategies, which I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But then get them to try different things to find their own kind of list, so that they have their own, whatever you want to call it, their own first aid kit, or mental health first aid kit.
I love that.
Or I usually call, or distress tolerance kit, or job search strategies, for my well-being, whatever you want to call it. But they create their own personal one based on, practicing different things. So there's lots of different things. One of an easy thing to do is just practice relaxation techniques. What that can do if you practice it regularly is it just lowers your overall level of stress. So that when you have those stressful moments in your life, that because your overall level of stress is lower, you can kind of cope better with those peaks that might happen during the whole job search situation. So relaxation techniques, like they include things like progressive muscle relaxation. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it's basically going, from your head to your toes, or your toes to your head, and tensing and relaxing your muscles. And that
It's
really
my favorite because it's quite physical and very tangible, as opposed to some other kind of mental techniques, which can be a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, everyone has their preferences. Some people hate progressive muscle relaxation. And other people really love it. So, I mean, that's why it's so important to try different things and find your set of things. But anything that can induce like that relaxation response in your body, and that will help your mind to kind of chill out as well. And it can also help with getting you to sleep, because, when we're feeling really anxious about things, that can interrupt, important things in our lives, like sleep. And that's really important just for our kind of normal daily functioning. So I'd say healthy lifestyle stuff, keep that up as much as you can. Relaxation, obviously, as I mentioned. Having fun, like taking breaks. doing yeah.
That's something Emma can get on board with.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing. It's not having fun and taking breaks as an avoidance behavior.
The line is fine.
So because if you do it as an avoidance behavior, what ends up happening is while you're having fun, you're also feeling guilty at the same time. And then
the fun is never real proper fun. Yeah.
Right.
I know this all too well.
Right. So you just want to have the fun.
Yeah.
So planning that and making sure that's part of your day. Rewarding yourself for doing things that are moving you towards that goal of getting a new job. It doesn't, whether you're successful or not is, that's ultimately what you want, but what you have to do to be successful is important as well. So if you have a, I don't know, if you have a target of 5 applications a week or whatever it is, and you reach the target, like, reward yourself for that.
Yeah, we actually have a checklist of some other things that people might not think about other than just applying for more jobs that you can do, like updating your LinkedIn, creating a profile on Seek. The things that you can do to continue feeling on top of it and proactive that aren't necessarily just applying for more jobs.
I think that's excellent. I think that's a great idea, because you don't want to just feel like you have only doing one thing to progress yourself forward. It's nice to have a variety of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think mindfulness is also potentially really helpful, and in a really practical way. I think the main thing that mindfulness can help us with is just accepting how we're feeling, in the moment, and that it's okay. It's perfectly reasonable to feel those ways. And then it can also provide like a moment where you're feeling like you're soothing yourself, and you're being kind to yourself, and you're being compassionate towards yourself, and really focusing some time on doing something pleasant and nice and kind for yourself. So I think all of those things can be really helpful to do as part of your process, whether it's looking for a job or whether it's any other challenges that you're facing in your life. Just making sure that you're ticking those boxes too, that it's not optional, like taking care of yourself is not optional.
I love that.
It needs to be on your to-do list every day. Yeah. And it doesn't need to be hours a day. It can be 10 minutes some days, and it can be a couple of hours another day, and it can be the whole day the next day, and it can be a minute the next day. It can be a variety of ways, but what's important is to work out what works for you and do that.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add on that topic?
Well, I just, I want to say congratulations on doing such a great podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I heard that you reached a milestone of 10,000 listens. So
Yes, we did.
Congratulations for that as well.
Thank you so
much.
much.
I think that you're helping a lot of people. So thanks for having me on. I really appreciate you reaching out. And I hope that what we talked about today will help lots of people.
Thank you so much for coming on the pod today. As we spoke about, dealing with job rejection can take a huge mental toll, especially in this COVID climate. And you've given us, particularly me and our listeners, some amazing tips on how to cope. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about Lillian's work and her resources, you can visit her website at www.drlilliannejad.com, and we'll put that all in the show notes for you so that you can click on that and check out her online courses for some more building life skills as well to get your resilience up. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Sarah and Emma.
We'll be back in your ears next week. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Interview Boss. If you liked this episode and you want to support us, go ahead and hit follow on Spotify or subscribe in Apple. That's how we can hit the charts so we can help even more people. For more advice, inspiration, and a supportive community, don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Interview Boss.
If we've been your job search besties and helped you in some way, there's a cool way you can support the show. Shout us a virtual coffee.
We get a huge kick out of reading all of your success stories. Head to buymeacoffee.com/interviewboss and shout us a cuppa.
If you keep us caffeinated, we can keep the content coming.